Hello there guys, welcome back to Easy Tutorials by Dave, and on this video we're going to cover the main interface on Excel 2010. And as you can see, it's on screen as we look. Now the first thing that I want to take you, if we zoom up here and we have a little look here, look, this is your sizing icons. Now these are just like they are in any other application. This one is the close, so it will close the application. This one will restore it, so if you click it, it goes halfway down, as you can see there, and then you can move it around, or you can dock it halfway and then set the others up as you do, or you can position it where you want. And this one is the minimize, where you click on that and it puts it down here into your taskbar, and then if you click it, it comes back up. So it's just like it is on the others. But notice in the Excel you've got the two sets, so now you've got a set underneath. Now this set will close, or this one will close, the workbook. Now notice here we've got workbook 1. Now, if I close it, the book 1 would close. If I restore it, notice you can't really tell there. So let me just change this like this. Notice now, you can see book 1 is there. So now we've got a window in the application. Now, the reason that we have this is because Excel is used for analysing data. So you look at the top office and the office that's not doing so well. So if I bring another new workbook up, notice this one's book 2 and we've got book 1 there. So now we can analyse this data against this data and we can have a little look. I could have another one if I wanted to as well. I can have as many workbooks open as I like. But I could tile these so they're tiled side by side. So if I just go view on the view tab and say arrange all and tiled, notice the two windows are side by side, and it's pretty much so you can have a window within a window. Now if I make this one full screen and then I close the book 2, now this book's on its own. So if I go full screen on it, now we've got the full screen and we can work on what we want. But if I minimize it, notice it's down here in Excel. So the minimizes it in Excel. And again, you can just bring it back and you can click up. So the top set controls the application and the bottom set controls the workbook that's open within Excel. Then you come over here and you can see this is the application that you're working on, and in this case it's Microsoft Excel. This is the workbook that's open, and this is book 3. Then you come over here and this is your quick access toolbar, and this is the bar just like it was in Microsoft Word, but you can put your own commands on this quick access toolbar. So all you have to do is click that, comes down, you can put the new, the quick print and the spelling and the sorting, sending. You can do any command you want, more commands there. But if we say, for instance, the email one, notice now it's got the email one. To remove a button, you just either click on that little button and then click on the email and it'll remove it, or you simply right click on the button and say remove from the quick access toolbar and it comes down. Again, we can change the position of it. Now the ribbon is this big area here and it comes along there, and we can say show the ribbon or show below the ribbon, and now look, it's here below the ribbon. I don't like it there, I like it on the top, so I'll just drop that back up and show above the ribbon and it goes back up at the top. These are your ribbon tabs. Now you've got here, you've got the file, which always stays green, and then you've got the home tab, the insert tab, page layout, and so on and so forth. I've got a couple here, guys. This developer and David's goodies there, I've put them on. The developer one is used for advanced users, and that is my I've got special buttons in that one as well, so you won't normally see them. On the Home tab, notice, or on all the tabs, but I'm showing you the Home tab at the moment. Notice on the Home tab, you've got the clipboard category, you've got the font category, you've got the alignment category, the number format category, the styles, and the cells. And then you've got the editing section. And that is the Home tab in the ribbon. Again, you can come up here, look, and you can hide the ribbon. So if if you click it, you can hide the ribbon. The ribbon's still there if you need it. You just click on the tab and it'll just disappear. But this is show and hide the ribbon. The help is the help, so you can get help if you need it. And then you come down here. Now this little area here, this is what you call this bar along here. This is called your formula bar. Now it's very important and you've got to keep your eye on it at all times. And it's split into 3 areas. Now if we look at the first area first, it's this area here, and this is called the name box. And the name box has got a grid reference. And if you look at the grid reference at the moment, it's saying A1, because this little box here is on A1. But if I use my arrow keys and move the cell pointer down, notice that little square that's moving? That's called your cell pointer. And the reason it's called a cell pointer is because wherever cell you point at, that's where it'll land on, and that's where you would type. And notice now it's saying B3 because it's in column B, as you can see there, look, and row 3. So it's saying B3 in there. So the name box tells you the position of your little cell pointer. Some people call it the cursor box, but that tells you the position of that box at all times. This little fella here is called your formula pallet. And what this does, it helps you put formulas in, functions in, which I'll talk about later. But notice, a minute ago, I could move this box with the arrow keys, and I was okay to do so. As you can see there, it's doing it again. Now, if you press F2 on the keyboard, notice you get this little cross and this little tick on the formula palette. Now, that means is that you're in what we call edit mode. And what it means is that you are inside the cell, not on the cell. And if you try to move your cell pointer around now, you can't because you're inside the cell, not on it. And notice up here, all these commands are dimmed out because they're not available because you're in editing mode. And that means that if you're going to change your text or correct a spelling mistake or add something to the cell, some more information, when you're in edit mode, you can't. And if you just look down here in the bottom left, in the status bar at the bottom, it says edit, you're in edit mode. So it tells you now to get rid of edit mode, I can either hit the cross, which would cancel. I could hit the tick that would accept whatever you're typing. Or I can just press escape on the keyboard. And notice now all my commands come back, they disappear. And if you look down here in the bottom left-hand corner, notice you're in ready mode. So you're ready to go again. So you've got to keep your eye on there at all times. Also, this white bar, this white area, this is called your formula bar. Now what this does, this shows you the contents of the cell. And I'll show you that in a minute or two when I've explained the rest of it. But that's your formula bar. Keep your eye on there all the time. It's very, very important. Then you notice over here we've got what you call your column headers. Now notice when I put my little mouse pointer on that column header A, it becomes a down arrow. Now if I click, notice it selects the entire column. If I click and hold and then drag to the right, notice I'm highlighting all the columns. Likewise, I can do it with the row. That does the entire row, and then I can come down there. So they're your column headers, but they're used to select the entire column or row, depending what you're on. Now, over here, if we come over here to the right-hand side, notice you've got your little scroll bar. Now, this is your up arrow. Obviously, it'll go up. This is your scroll box down here. And then down here, look, you can use the down arrow key, and if you look at the numbers here, yeah, you can see it scrolling down, or we can go up and it'll scroll up. This one along here, look, this scroll bar along here, this one goes left and right, so you can scroll to the right. Notice up here it's changing, or you can go back left and right, or you can move the box just to show you how it's done as well. Then you come along here, and these are what you call your sheet tabs. Now they call it bulk 1 because you've got 3 sheets by default. So you've got sheet 1, sheet 2 and sheet 3. You can click on this and it'll add another insert. Well, it'll insert another worksheet for you if you want to, and you can have as many worksheets as you want. I've had 1,000 worksheets for testing purposes, and the computer runs smoothly. It's got a fantastic memory system on it. These are what you call your sheet navigators. So they're a little bit like video buttons. That'll take you to the first one. That'll take you to the very last one in the document. This one will take you one to the right, and this one will take you one to the left. But the nice thing about this is, if you right click on these, you get your sheet tabs like this, and then you can just select the one you want, and it'll just go to the selected sheet. Then you've got your status bar. Now this is the status bar at the bottom, and if you come along here, look, these are your different views, which I'll explain later to you, or I'll show you them later, but it's just how you're looking at the document. You can have it in A4 page and see what's going on A4 pieces of paper, and this one, so you can see page break preview. That's page layout, and that's normal. That's your zoomer, so you can zoom in and out, and then this is your zoom slider. So obviously that's the minus, it'll make it smaller. Then you can use the zoomer to go in and out like so, and that'll zoom in, so you can zoom with what you want to make it comfortable. And that is your main interface as you're looking at it, and you're looking into the Excel thing. Now, what I do need to explain, you just need to know and you need to understand what you're working with, okay? And Excel is extremely big, and it's a big program. Now, can you see here, I'm looking at column A, and then I'm looking at column U. I can just see V, and then I'm looking from row 1, and I'm coming down here, look, to 28. Now the question is, at this point I would ask you, how big is sheet 1 when we say sheet 1? So in other words, how many columns across is it, and how many rows down? Now, you could be here guessing for ages, and if you're scrolling down like some users do, you'd be there a fortnight. Watch this. If you hold the control key on the keyboard and then do the down arrow key, it'll go right to the bottom of the sheet. Now notice now you're 1,048,576. That's how many rows down it is. And if you do control right arrow key, notice you're on XFD. Now what that is 16,384 columns across. So these sheets are ginormous. They're really, really big. And you have got to be really careful that you don't delete things. And then to get home, you do control home on the keyboard, and that will always take you back to A1. Alternatively, you could have done control left arrow key and control up arrow key, and that would have took you back home as well. But the quick key is control home, and that just takes you straight back to A1. So you know the sheets are really big, and that's what you've got to be really careful of. Now the other little point, the other little thing I need to speak to you about while we've got you at the moment. Notice as I go around, just let me zoom in a little bit. So I'm going into about 150. So I'm going in now. Can you see my little mouse pointer here? And notice it's a little fat cross. Now because it's a little fat cross, it's what we call the selector. So if I select a cell, in this case it's B2, and I click, it'll put the cell pointer on B2. And if I want to highlight a block of text, so I want to go from B2, I click and hold the mouse with a fat cross. I come across here to F and come down there to 10, and now I can highlight that data with the fat cross. So that's what we call the selector. Now, there's a little thing in Excel that is called the fill handle. And notice it goes from a fat cross. Can you see my fat cross? And then you go to this little thin cross. Now, if you accidentally pick that little thin cross up and you drag that down, notice you get a series of days, and that's what it's used for. So you can actually fill down. Now, that's because I had that little thin cross, and that's called your fill handle. The next little pointer is that you can get that little pointer now. Can you see the little pointer with the 4 little arrows in? That is the move tool. So if I click and drag, notice I'm actually moving the data. And I can pick it up from any side. Look, I can go from the top, I can go from the bottom, from the left, or from the right. Let me take it from the left, and I take it over there. And can you see? I can just pick the data up and move it wherever I want. If I wanted to copy the data, I would just hold the little move pointer, and then I come along there and I hold the control key. Now notice with the control key you've got that little plus sign. If I keep hold of control and release the mouse, notice now I've copied the data. So that's your move tool. Okay. And then you come up here and notice you've got your little arrow. So when I'm here, it's the little arrow. And if I click on that, that is your column selector. Then if I go between 2 lines, can you see the 2 lines? Now I'll do it on this one to show you. If I go on the line between the B and the C, notice I get this little mouse pointer. Well, that's called your column width adjuster. Now if I hold the mouse down and drag to the right, notice I make that column wider. Likewise over here, look, if I do it on between the 2 and the 3, I'll make number 2 higher, deeper. So you can adjust the column width and the row height of any cell by using the column width adjuster. Then you come over here and you notice when I'm in the formula bar, notice that my little pointer becomes the beam. And that's so I could place that between any of them characters. So imagine that I've made a spelling error in the word Monday, and then I want to correct it. I go up with the beam, I place my little cursor between the 2 ends, get rid of one of them, and there you go, look, bingo. So that's so you can edit a little bit like in Word. It's called the beam. Then you come up here and it becomes the pointer. Now when it's a pointer, notice my little pointer. That's simply just so I can click on any command and it will execute the command I'm pointing at. So if I wanted to make this Monday bold, I click on the B and it makes it bold. If I want to make it bigger, I come up here and I click the grow font and it'll make the font grow. So it's each command. So all these little pointers do mean something. Now if you come over here and you have a little look just above this little scroll bar, can you see it? There's a little grommet. Yeah. Now if you click, notice the little mouse pointer's changing again. It's a double line with an up and down arrow. Now that's split screen. Now if I click and hold the mouse, notice that big fuzzy line. I place that in between anywhere on the sheet and I've split the sheet. Now what that means is in the top window I can look at rows 1, 2, 3 and 4. And in the bottom window, notice I'm in the bottom window, I can look at a different area of the sheet. So notice I've gone to the bottom. So now I'm looking at the 1,048,000 rows. So I'm looking at 2 different areas in the sheet. And you can move this, so you can pick it up and move it and make it so you can change it round and things like that. but it's really, really good. It is really fantastic. And then notice down here on the bottom right, there's one there. Look, can you see that? Now that is your vertical, so I can split it vertical as well. So in this column, I can look at the column D, and on this one, I can use and look at the other end of the sheet. So I can look at different areas of the worksheet at different times, and it is really super. And again, you can adjust the column, because you might be wanting to read some data from this end of the sheet in a database or something like that, but actually typing it in here, so you can read it from here and type it in there. So it is really good. Now you can adjust these by just putting your mouse on it and moving them along, or you can just go to the bar itself and double click, and notice they remove and they just pop off. So that's your little split screen grippers. The mouse pointer, you look up here, look, and you can change your tabs and things like that, so you can just literally click on them. If you wanted to put these splits on here, you can come to the view tab, and then you come along here, look, and that's the split. So you click on the split and notice that puts it wherever your cursor is, so it puts it just above and to the left of it, and then you can just move them wherever you want them, like that, look. So you can just move them around, and then in this one you could look at a different area, yeah. So it just helps you along, and on this one you could be over here, so you can see the different areas. To remove them, you double click them, and they just disappear. And again, you just go to the home tab, and it goes back to A1, and then that's pretty much that. So when you are using Excel, what I must say to you is, just be very careful of, when you're doing things, make sure that that little pointer is exactly the shape that you want it to do that, because as you nip that mouse, you might want to select like this, but if you hit that little cell pointer as you're nipping the mouse, as you're pressing the mouse down, or if you get that one, it would move it. So that's what you've got to be careful of, yeah? So as you press the mouse, depending on what shape that mouse pointer is, depends what action is executed. So just be a little bit careful in what you're doing when you're doing it. So make sure that the mouse pointer, when you're selecting, is at fat cross, and then you just move it down like that. The last thing that I want to go through on the main interface, just to put you at ease, is this. When you're selecting your data, irrelevant of what data you've got selected, the first cell always stays white. It's called your input cell. It has got a job, it's got a purpose, but we'll walk through that later on. So wherever you start your highlight from, that one always stays white, but it is inclusive of the selection, and that's what you've got to remember. So if you had some numbers here, look, so just imagine that you had some numbers and you wanted to format them into currency. You've got your figures there. Notice that you highlight the first one, it stays white, but then when I come up here to the number section and put the currency on, for instance, notice that that's still included within the selection. It's called the input cell, but it's handy to know. Well, that's it for now, guys. That's the main interface in Excel 2010. I hope you've enjoyed it. I am going to be doing a complete series on Excel, so follow them through. And if you follow me videos one by one, I will explain everything that's going on in Excel, and you'll understand it a lot better. You might well know it, but it's confirming that you know it. It's better to know it than not know it, and then strange things won't happen. If you liked it, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe with us, and then you get the updates as I put them up there. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye!